NoSkill Customs.
This is Bert, and I got a special episode today. First of all, I've got my baby nephew Royal here, and you may hear him cooing occasionally during this episode. But then I have my good friend on the phone. I'd like to introduce you to Poky, who actually came up with the whole concept of NoSkill Customs, but I've just been leaving him out of it for 2 years. Yeah. Poky, can you say hi to everybody?
Yes, I can. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. It's funny that you say I came up with the whole concept because I would watch the stuff that you would customize with your skills, and I would think to myself, I wish I could do that. I wish I could make that. I have no skills. That kind of gave me the idea in my head that I could repurpose existing toy lines or in other toy lines and try to recreate the sets and scenes that had not made yet. That's where NoSkill came from. I was watching all your skills.
Why, thank you. And I think one cool thing that you brought to this idea was that I am, and anyone on the channel that's been watching me knows that accuracy is hugely important to me. I got to have, like, if a sand trooper doesn't have a little pouch on his backpack, I'm going to carve it off of his backpack and everything like that. So I'm really crazy about accuracy. But what I think is awesome is that you go more for, like, an impression of a scene. You want to tell me what the whole notion of that is?
Yeah, it's a notion of necessity. Given my limitations, that I'm not going to be able to create stuff, sculpt stuff. I have to work with what's already molded, what's already formed. When I think about it, it's really an extension of childhood, right? You're a child and you're playing with toys. You use your imagination. This is really imagination based. And when I come up with these ideas, when I try to create these scenes or dioramas, I want to feel what did that scene in the movie make me feel? What did it make me think of? Accuracy is not an option, so the focus is on how can I recreate the emotion, the attitude, the feeling associated with that scene that I like so much that I want to capture in 3 3/4 inch scale.
Awesome. Now, what's the first little NoSkill custom diorama you want to show us here?
So Mandalorian, many people love the show. Longtime fans are watching it. When they introduced the armor when on the show, the setting looked very cool. The armor herself was an awesome looking character. I saw her in battle with the stormtroopers, and that was that moment when you're watching the show, when you're watching the movie, we thought, wow, if they ever make that toy, I want to capture that moment. And sure enough, they made the figure, they made the stormtroopers, the Remnant Troopers look amazing by Hasbro. So does the armor, for that matter. They all have the posability, but they don't have the context. Almost immediately, I knew the archway from the Jabba playset is so useful for all the desert worlds in Star Wars. That archway can be used in many different ways. But I was already thinking I would create the armor's blacksmith shop with the archway, and what I really needed was the furnace.
Yeah, the furnace, yes.
Was the furnace. I wanted the furnace for her to be in the backdrop and put that in front of the Jabba's palace archway, and I actually did what I often do. I will search in action figures furnace or blacksmith and see what comes up. I thought McFarlane might have something. Their line's very extensive. Their detail's amazing. The more I thought about it, the next move I do is go to my box of spare parts, which is almost all Star Wars, but there's stuff from other toy lines in there. And one of the things I came across was the Senate pod. And out of the parts I had, that seemed most likely like I could turn it into a large-scale furnace, but it was designed for 3 3/4 inch figure. So that was my furnace, and I needed a fire. I do collect the 6-inch Black Series, and a couple of years ago, Hasbro put out a deluxe Stormtrooper with blast accessories, and it has several really nice explosion pieces. And I tried out the different sizes of explosions from that set. Largest explosion fit nicely into the Senate pod. So now I have my backdrop. And to me, it's really important. The action figures that Hasbro's making in the vintage collection are just amazing. Fantastic posability, so many points of articulation. But to me, it doesn't matter what pose you have them in. if you don't have context. So the context is what NoSkill Customs is all about. Once I had my furnace and I had my doorway, which will frame the room in, it frames the blacksmith shop or the armorer shop, and I have it framed off. I started shooting it, and I had every intention of it facing forward, the archway facing forward. It looks great, and I started setting up my stormtroopers being crushed by the armor in front of a raging furnace. The fire's blasting out, and it creates the essence of how that scene made me feel. Now, in the show, the flame is blue, it's much more under control, but the chaos of the fight, the intensity of the fight, seems like it should be a raging fire, and so that's why I think the blast effect fit. Plus, I couldn't find anything to mimic blue fire, a really controlled blue fire, so I had to go this route, but I really feel like it captured the feeling that I had when I was watching that scene. What was interesting to me is when I was setting it up, I noticed the back of the archway had some great tooling and leathering on the piping behind the archway. And it looked only half complete. I would say maybe a quarter of the back of the archway has this intricately detailed piping. It's painted. It looks fantastic. And I thought in a Star Wars blacksmith shop or Star Wars furnace setting, it would look a little more sci-fi. I think with the door facing forward, it looked a little more medieval. So the problem I had, Bert, was there's all these shelving. The best I could follow up the back of the archway, it looks like it has shelves. It was just the way it was tooled. It has sections cut off, and there's no design there. And it was you that gave me the idea to design it. So if you want to talk about that when I was discussing it, because I remember telling you I thought the back looked great but incomplete.
Yeah, well, I just thought, that at this point in collecting, there's so many different Jango Fett helmets and backpacks and jetpacks and stuff that maybe they could just be used as set dressing. Plus, if you remember, around that time in the episode, that was when they discovered the pile of helmets and armor and stuff. So I thought, take some of those armors like the I don't know if did you have the 30th anniversary Jango Fett chest plate? He comes with a removable chest plate. You could add. I have an extra one. I'll give you if you don't have it. And then
I don't. Now we're on tape, so I'm expecting you to bring that to work. I want to see that. As soon as you said it, I thought the same thing you thought of. I thought of later in the episode where the Mandalorian finds all the armor piled up at the Stormtrooper massacre. But as soon as you said that, those empty spaces in the back of the arch wall became shelving to me. I thought he's absolutely right. We could fill that in with set dressing, and it adds to that essence again. It gives the context. Okay, so once you said that, the empty spaces became shelving, and I went into my box of spare figures, and you mentioned Jango Fett. I thought I had a 30th anniversary, but maybe it's Evolutions. Again, what I would love to have is if Hasbro ever wants to use that, their vintage collection Jango Fett. I love that figure. It'd be a great repack. But at this point in my time with collecting, I have more than enough Boba Fett. I did not know in season 1 that Boba Fett was coming back, but I thought it'd be so cool, almost like an Easter egg, to have a Boba Fett helmet there. So I took Boba Fett off one of these vintage collection Boba Fett that Hasbro re-released in a repack wave. Just took the helmet. Of course, I did have my Jango Fett helmet. I believe it's an Evolutions Jango Fett, because I don't think I have the chest plate that you mentioned from the 30th anniversary. But I just wanted pieces of Mandalorian armor. So I went into my spare figure box. I cannibalized a couple of Mandalorians, set up the shelf, and honestly, that became one of my favorite parts of the whole scene, was almost these little Easter eggs in the background. Plus, you got to show off the piping then. So I filled up as many of the empty spots as I could to make it look like work that the armor was doing when she was interrupted. by the squad of stormtroopers.
I have one more thought for you. You know how you mentioned the blue flame? I was going through my parts for something, and we bought all those Force Link R2D, and doesn't that have little jetpacks? So I was thinking you put a little bit of sticky tack and just have like a series of those little blue jetpack flames. I also got one with the that Target Galaxy's Edge R2 unit or R3 unit, the clear dome dude. Maybe in a future video we'll try some alternate ideas, because that's kind of what it's about, is not everyone having to go out and buy a Senate pod, but just encouraging people to look creatively at their little junk stash of extra parts,
Well, like I said, to me, NoSkill dioramas, when you boil it down, not pop it, just boil it down, it's the essence of childhood. It's your imagination.
Yeah.
You got lots of Star Wars parts. You probably have pieces from other toy lines. And just like when you were a kid, your toy lines crossed over. Toy lines crossed over all the time. You use what you had on hand, and you use your imagination. The idea that collectors are impatient. We can't wait for Hasbro to make every scene in every place that we'd ever desire, so we make it ourselves. Not having the skills, I'm using what I learned in childhood and just repurposing already existing toys and other toy lines to try to put a semblance of the scene together and create that emotional impact or that attitude that the scene originally presented the first time you saw it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And thanks for showing up. I hope we do more of these Poky and Bert combo episodes in the future. It's a little tough right now with the social distancing and everything, and I know the sound quality of.
How far would you say we're distanced this morning? About 3 miles?
Yeah, about 2-3 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I feel comfortable at that distance.
And that wraps up this week's episode. Please like and subscribe so when we do a follow-up episode with some more Mandalorian custom dioramas, you'll know to look and watch it. So we'll see you then.